we know that that is a response to fear. How is your body telling you that you don't like that? It's really hard to calm the head down when the nervous system and everything in here is firing up. When we've got trauma, we've got little parts that can be very, very triggered. That's your legs, your body communicating to your head. Hello everybody, I'm Catriona Morten. I'm a sensory-motor psychotherapist, and today I'd like to talk to you about different ways that we can manage, calm and regulate our nervous system when it gets fired off. Before I jump into that, if you're enjoying these videos, then please give us a like and subscribe to our channel, because it really helps us get this message out to way more of you out there. Our nervous system, obviously within our body and our brain, they work in conjunction together. One feeds the other. And when our nervous system gets fired off, you'll have heard me talk in other videos about when our amygdala and our brain goes off our smoke detector. It bypasses all the normal, oh, what do I think about that? Oh, what could that be? And it goes into fight, flight or freeze really quickly. We get loads of different chemicals around our body, and our nervous system goes on to hyper super alert in order to do one of those things, fight, flight or freeze. And so this has a huge impact on our body. And it's not just when our amygdala gets triggered, that's an immediate sudden one. But our anxiety levels can really build. And if we don't have much capacity, if we don't have a very wide window of tolerance, then it's much easier for us to be, flung out the top and feel like everything's just overwhelming, or shutting down out the bottom when we're going into hypo. And it's really important. It can be very disempowering, and it can make us feel really at the mercy of whatever's going to happen to us. Just the world in general. It doesn't feel like we're in control. We're always kind of waiting for the next thing to spark us, our nervous system off. And the problem is the way that they feed each other. When the body feels that, when the activation is getting up and our tolerance level is just like 0, that sends a message to our brain that picks up on all of these signals, and the brain goes, oh my God, what's wrong? And the overthinking and catastrophizing can start. And when people are really highly anxious, if they're coming in to see me, they're like la 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 la, and the brain is going at 100 miles an hour. And it's really hard to stop this and to shut this down. It's much easier to try and calm the body, to try and calm and settle the nervous system. Because when we can do that, this just automatically shuts down. But how do we do that? I see an awful lot of videos out there on how to calm the nervous system and how to calm the vagus nerve, all sorts of different breathing techniques and grounding techniques. They're brilliant. And if you haven't got a traumatized nervous system and body and brain, then those things probably will work really well, and people will be able to notice, oh, that one's a bit better than that one, oh, I like that one better than that one. But when it comes to a nervous system that's fired off, and our body that is overwhelmed and shutting down or getting ready to fight or flee, then we've got to really know what we're doing. So we're not just stabbing in the dark, hoping for the best. And what we have to be able to do is recognize what is actually going on in our body and what is happening, what's changed, what's causing this. Is it constriction in my breath? Have my legs gone numb? But when we're in that very triggered place, we're very much, your hypervigilance is on. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? It's really difficult to then go, oh, I wonder what my body's doing, because to make that transition when you're really hyped up is very difficult. Now, the more that we can practice just tuning in and listening when we're in a relatively calm state, then the easier it is to know what some of the techniques are that work for you, specifically for you, and try them. And you'll know almost immediately if things start to calm and settle, or if things make things worse, then you'll feel it, you'll notice it. You'll feel more hyped, or whatever's going on will increase. And so the first thing that we need to be able to do is wake up the connection between our head and our body. It can be really difficult to kind of get into that mindful state, switch our head off and take notice of what our body's doing. So what I always recommend is waking up the connection so that you're picking up the information that's coming from your body to your head. And one of the quickest and easiest ways of doing that, first of all, is to actually liven your body up. Wake it up, give it a really good pat, rub your legs, starting down on your legs, pat them, wake them up. This is going to produce a little bit of chi energy. And when you stop, do it really vigorously. When you stop, can you feel the buzzing? Can you feel the energy that you've just created in your legs? That's your legs, your body communicating to your head. And just let your curiosity go, oh yeah, I can feel that. I can really feel that buzzing. Take it down a little bit. Are you aware of your feet on the floor? If they're just sort of there, move them. Can you feel them as you move your feet? Can you move your toes in your shoes or on the carpet or the floor, whatever they're on? Can you feel that? Give them a really good wiggle and then stop. Can you feel the information that's coming? Then it might even be easier to go, what temperature are my feet? Are they warm? Are they cold? If you're not sure, go back, give them another wiggle. Get that communication going. Do the same with your hands. Rub your hands together, rub them up your arms, pat them, wake the connection up. When you've given it a really good pat and a really good rub, again, just stop and go, can you feel that tingling? Can you feel that energy? Where can you feel it most? And just take your curiosity and allow it to just sit and be with that buzzing and with that tingling feeling for a while. And if you need to do it again, repeat that. Then the next thing I always recommend people do is to kind of get yourself in there a little bit more, because this, yes, it's communicating, but what's it like if you go in there and work those muscles and go down to your legs and say, okay, without doing anything and changing your posture, can you squeeze any muscles in your legs? Which muscles can you feel squeezing? I can feel muscles in my calves. I can feel muscles in the tops of my legs squeezing as I just squeeze them and let them go. Squeeze them and let them go. And then to get that involvement even more, can you give them a really tight squeeze and hold it? Your muscles are telling you when they're tight enough. That's communication. Now when you let it go, can you slow it down and have some control in there? Slow it down until you can feel your muscles letting you know, okay, we're released all the way to the end. You can kind of feel them creaking out. Can you do the same with the muscles in your arms? What muscles can you find to tense and work? What ones are working? What ones are you operating? I can feel muscles here, and I can feel them in the tops of my arms. So give them a few pulses so that you know that you're working them. And then give them a really tight squeeze. Those muscles are going to tell you when that's tight enough, and maybe they start to kind of tremble a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, okay. When you're going to let it go, slow it right down so you've got some control in there. And this really helps you kind of get a sense of control and a little bit of your head and your body working together, because your head's having to be curious and to feel, and your body knows that you're in there actually operating it. You can do that with all sorts of different muscles. You can do that muscle with your glutes. You can squeeze the muscles in your bottom. Do the same. When you go to let them go really slowly. You can do the same with your stomach muscles. Nobody needs to know that you're doing these things. Can you feel that? And when you let them go, just let them go slowly. Work them. And you're waking up that communication so that when things start to change, you're going to notice it. Now might be an opportunity to say, okay, well, I wonder how I'm breathing. And the key to being able to recognize what's changing and what's going to work when that starts to change for your breath is when you go in, don't change it. You're just looking to notice, how am I breathing in this moment? Try and rule out any kind of criticism and any kind of label of what it is. Just feel it. Can you feel your breath? Another really good place that you can work with your body is your shoulders. They hold an awful lot of information, and it can really help us enhance our curiosity about what's our body telling us, how is it communicating that to us. And often I'll invite people to just say, okay, just become aware of your shoulders. You kind of move them and you feel yourself moving them. What do your shoulders say about being asked to lift up towards your ears? Does it feel like they're quite loose? Are they tight? Do they not want to do that? How are they telling you that? When you lower them down, what do you notice? Is there any kind of clunkiness, any jerkiness? Do they feel smooth? Try them one at a time. Is one slightly different to the other? And I always say, go real slow when you do these things. And if the answer is, I don't know what information my shoulders are giving me, if they're tight or not, well, they're always tight. Okay, take one of your hands and put it on the opposite shoulder. And as you lift your shoulder up with the hand on there, does the hand help to enhance the feeling? Can you feel the bones and the muscles moving? If there's any clunkiness, is it on the way down? Is it on the way up? And just, if you notice it, does it do it again the next time? Just be curious, don't be judgy about it. It's like, okay, that's the way that my shoulders move. And do the same on the other side. Does one feel slightly different to the other? This one with mine always has a little clunk when I do that, probably because I've broken my collarbone twice. So they're going to be different. And we're not symmetrical. Both sides of our face, our bodies, we're not symmetrical. And so it can be a good way of just tuning in and listening to, okay, what's the difference? Is there any difference? You're just enhancing that. Now might be a good time to say, I wonder how I'm breathing. When we go in to check our breath, we're not looking to change it. We want to know how your body's breathing. And it can be quite tricky, but practice. How am I breathing right in this moment? Observe as you take your breath in through your nose. What parts of my body are moving? Where is my breath going into? Is it going down past my diaphragm, into my stomach? Is it just up in my chest? If you were to take a slightly deeper breath and say, okay, well, what does that tell me about the capacity I've got, the way that I'm breathing right now? Take that deeper breath. Is it easy? Is there anything constricting it? Is there any tightness in there? Does it feel like there's a heaviness on it? Just being curious. This is the way. Now, if you've done some of these other things first, chances are your breath is going to be fairly calm, fairly loose, fairly relaxed. Now, what we want to be able to do is start to recognize, well, what changes and how do I notice things are changing? So you can feel your arms, you can feel your legs, you can feel the way that you're breathing, you know how your shoulders feel. Then we can think about something that's a little bit troubling, or something that we're dreading, something that we're not looking forward to, or something that's just happened that wasn't brilliant. You're not looking for anything major, just something that is slightly troubling. We're not looking for anything that's going to trigger the amygdala and your nervous system goes off, because that's going to be really fast. We want to be able to track it and follow it, and then do some experiments with it. So for me, last month, it would have been tax return. And I still get a kind of what happens when I think about having to submit my tax return? If I'm going to just, have that thought, imagine doing that, then I can track actually what starts to happen in my body. And for me, it's my stomach gives a little flip, so I know that there's a contraction in there. My breath goes smaller and a little tighter, so if I take a deeper breath in, thinking about doing that hideous tax return, I don't have so much capacity. I don't feel my breath coming right in to my lungs and my upper body actually moving, and it's not going down into my diaphragm. So I can tell the places just from remembering, and I've got to do it all again next year, what starts to happen. We can think about, anything that we know we don't like, a big spider or heights, something that isn't going to be really triggering, but something that actually just makes you a bit uncomfortable, that you don't like. How is your body telling you that you don't like that? How is your body actually communicating that to you? For some people, their arms might glue themselves into their sides, because if we have a kind of contraction response, we might notice that our body hunches over a little bit. Is that because the core is collapsing, or does it feel like there's a bit of a pressure pushing down? Because for a lot of people, the first thing that happens is they make themselves smaller. What's happening in there? How is your body actually doing this? What parts of your body are involved in this? And one of the easiest things to try is to go with what the body's doing. And so if we take just the example of arms gluing themselves into the sides, and often I'll notice it in people, it's like, do your arms feel like you're a bit more glued into your sides? Yeah, a little bit. How easy would it be to move them out? Well, I could, but I don't really want to. Brilliant information. Your body doesn't want to expand, it wants to contract. And so going with it would be, okay, well, what happens if we just join in? We're recognizing what the body's doing. We're not telling it it's doing anything wrong. Saying, okay, if I join in and give those arms a really good squeeze into my sides, what does that feel like as I do it and then as I let it go? If you've had contraction, then the first thing that will happen is, oh, actually, there's a bit of a gap now. My arms just naturally release themselves. Okay, if you take that deeper breath in now, have you got a bit more expansion? Oh yeah, a bit more expansion. And so for that person, knowing that when something comes up that they feel really uncomfortable about, when they start to shrink, then before it takes over, we can join in with that. And you can either pull your arms into your sides, press them into your sides, whatever works. And you'll notice when you let it go, if things actually start to expand and release. If we've got tightness on our chest, then it can be very difficult to just like, oh, I need to try and relax it. Breathe it out. That's difficult. If we go with what the body's doing, that would be, if you want to put your hands on your chest and you feel that tightness, oh yeah, it's right there. What happens when you press into that? So you're joining in. You're noticing what the body's doing and you're joining in. And you're pressing into it. And when you release it, do it nice and slowly. You'll take an initial deeper breath. What are the subsequent breaths like? What does your body tell you about that? If it makes a contraction worse, you'll notice it really quickly. Oh, I don't feel like that. I feel like I'm being crushed. Okay, take your hands away. So you know that what's going to be needed is some kind of expansion, or work with a different part of your body. And then you can go back in and check in with your breath. So if you tense the muscles in your legs really, really tight, let them go. If you push your feet into the floor one by one, both together. And if you're sitting back, you can push your arms, your hands down into your legs, give them a really good push, join in, really feel those feet being pushed into the floor. When you let it go, how does your body tell you what it felt about that? How does your body tell you if that was a good experiment or one that it didn't like? And just being aware of what your body's telling you so that you know the right things to do it. If we start to feel that we're getting really, really still, that something happens and we go very, very still, I see it a lot with people, whether it's on Zoom, Skype, or in person, and you can almost feel and hear the stillness coming over. There's no little micro movements going on. The body's just holding itself incredibly still. Now, if you notice that that's happening, well, we know that that is a response to fear. Okay, we're going to keep ourselves really, really still. And this, we'll have developed this from years ago, and we won't even know we're doing it. But when we can start to think, what happens when I think about that unpleasant thing? Do I go really still? And if you do, then just first of all, do a little checklist. Okay, is there anything that feels okay to move? Can I move my toes? Okay, if you can move your toes, then move your toes. And if you can move your toes, then mix it up a little bit. Okay, move them both together. Do one foot at a time. Notice as you're doing that, do other things, just spontaneously start to move. If you can move your eyes, what happens when you just move your eyes around? Is it okay to move them up and down? Is it okay to move them side to side? Can you draw a figure of 8 with them? And when you've done that, it's like, okay, does anything spontaneously start to just loosen up? Can you move your fingers? And if it doesn't feel safe to move your fingers, you just press each finger in to whatever it is they're making contact with. Can you do one hand at a time? One finger at a time? Can you do them both together? Can you get them synchronized and working together? Are there any muscles that you can squeeze? When you start to do these things, if we've gone very still, then we're not going to be able to or feel comfortable or safe. It will not be helpful to make great big movements. But when we make those little ones, we're taking control because we're kind of, big threat coming from out here. Body starts to go still, we're going to start to shut down. When we can take the control back, then those little parts of us that have been triggered, they know that you know what to do. And for your present self, being able to get yourself unfrozen is brilliant because it empowers you, it puts you back in control. When you're doing experiments and you find something that works, oh yeah, it really works when I go with the tension. If my shoulders are really tight, then when you put your hands on them and you squeeze them, when you release them, does it help them release? When we go with something and it helps, brilliant. Make a note of that because if you go a little bit offline, you might not remember. I know lots of people make notes on their phone, and if that works for you, brilliant. Have it on a bit of paper somewhere. Stick it on your fridge somewhere so that it's really readily available and easy to look at. It's like, okay, those are the resources that seem to work for me. I'm going to try those. Instead of just stabbing in the dark and hoping for the best. Without trauma, then by all means go ahead. But when we've got trauma, we've got little parts that can be very, very triggered. And if by going small and very quiet, your breath will shrink down. If what you try and do is just some really big expansive things, it's going to be much more triggering. Parts unfreeze at their own pace. They unfreeze when they're ready, when they feel that the threat level has gone down. And if we always go body first, then our head calms down. It's really hard to calm the head down when the nervous system and everything in here is firing up because it's just sending that message, oh my God, what's wrong? And oh boy, can we overthink and catastrophize? So start from here. Take a note of how your body is when it's calm. When you're just still, what is your normal? Your kind of everyday. And then when you start to kind of just poke it a little bit, what starts to change? How can you tell? Checking things out, moving them, just being aware, doing a little checklist. Are my arms going into my sides? Do my feet and my legs feel like they don't want to move? Just do yourself a little checklist. Get familiar with it and get familiar with reading the messages that are coming from your body to your brain. And try not to label it, okay? Because often people will give things, this thing in my stomach or this thing in my chest. It's anxiety. It's fear. That sets the head off. What are the qualities of it? Is it tight? Is it churning? What are the physical qualities of it? That can make it an awful lot easier to have to notice and to sit with without it being alarming for your brain. So I hope that is helpful, useful, and it might encourage you to actually, start listening and tracking what your body is telling you. So if you've enjoyed this video, then give us a like and subscribe to our channel, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye!